Today we're digging into a case that's part legal puzzle, part human story, and it all revolves around one single object. This is the laptop and the law.
All right, let's just dive right into the wildest part of this story. Picture a really serious legal case, one that falls under some of the country's strictest child protection laws. You're probably thinking the outcome would be a huge fine, maybe even jail time, right? Well, in this case, the court's final order was something nobody saw coming. The accused was told to buy the victim a laptop. Yep, you heard that right.
And that, of course, is the big question here. Why? Why on earth would a court make such an unusual decision in such a sensitive case? To figure that out, we've got to rewind and go back to how this whole thing started.
So let's set the scene. This wasn't some small disagreement. This thing began with a formal and extremely serious accusation.
The case was filed under India's POCSO Act. Now, to really get the weight of this, you have to understand that the POCSO Act is an incredibly tough piece of legislation. It's specifically designed to protect children, and cases filed under it are treated with the absolute highest level of seriousness. There's almost no wiggle room for compromise. And you can see the legal process followed that very serious path. It all kicked off with an allegation. A minor girl accused her 52-year-old uncle of inappropriate conduct. This wasn't just a verbal thing. A formal case, an FIR, was registered with the police. But it didn't stop there. After the police investigated, a charge sheet was filed, which basically means the case was officially on its way to a criminal trial. Everything was moving forward exactly by the book.
But then, just as the wheels of justice were turning, something happened that no one expected. The entire story of the case just completely flipped on its head.
And this quote right here, this says it all. This comes directly from the person who made the accusation in the first place. She actually went before the High Court and said, in her own words, that the entire thing was just a family misunderstanding.
Now, this wasn't some informal change of heart. The minor girl, with her parents, officially appeared in front of the High Court. They handed in a sworn legal document, an affidavit, and also spoke to the court, all saying the same thing. She didn't want to pursue the case anymore. Now, the most important part here is that the court had to be sure. They spoke with her directly and confirmed that she was saying this voluntarily, that no one was forcing her. This put the judge in a really tough spot.
So, what do you do when the very foundation of your case disappears? Well, the judge's response is what led to that truly unconventional verdict we started with.
Legally speaking, high courts have something called inherent powers. Think of it as a special authority judges can use to prevent the legal system from being misused, or, like it says here, to make sure they achieve the ends of justice. Since the complainant herself wanted to withdraw, the judge basically decided that forcing a trial wasn't going to help anyone. It wouldn't achieve real justice. So they decided to quash, or cancel, the whole case.
But hold on. It wasn't just case dismissed. The judge attached a very specific and honestly pretty creative condition, a payment of 1.5 lakh rupees. And this wasn't a fine. The court had a very clear plan for exactly where that money was going.
The plan was laid out in 3 simple steps. First, the accused had to deposit that money directly with the court. Step 2, the court's own office would then use that money to buy a high-end laptop for the girl, specifically to help with her education. And third, if there was any money left over, it would go into a welfare fund for court employees. This is the key part. It wasn't a punishment paid to the government, but a direct action meant to create a positive outcome.
So, this unique solution pushes us beyond just this one case and into a much bigger conversation. What kind of justice was actually being served here, and what does it tell us about what the law is even for?
To really get what the court was doing, you got to look at 2 different ways of thinking about justice. On one side, there's punitive justice. That's the one we all know. You do the crime, you do the time. It's all about punishment. But then there's this other idea, restorative justice. This approach is less about punishing the offender and more about repairing the harm that was done. It asks, how can we make things right for everyone involved? This case is just a fascinating example of a court leaning towards that restorative path, even when dealing with a very punitive law. And you can really see the judge's dilemma here. This was no easy call. They had to balance 3 really powerful competing ideas. First, you have the absolute seriousness of the POCSO law. You can't just ignore it. Second, you have the clear voluntary wishes of the young woman at the center of it all. And third, you have this bigger goal of the court system to deliver a kind of justice that's actually meaningful in the real world, not just on paper. That laptop wasn't a random choice. It was a symbol of a forward-looking educational solution. And all of this brings us to the big question at the very heart of this story. This case forces us to ask, what is the real purpose of our legal system? Is it always to punish? Or are there times when its true purpose is to find a way to rebuild and restore? In this one unique instance, a judge chose a path that prioritized a constructive outcome for the complainant over a punitive one for the accused. There are no easy answers, and people will debate this for a long time. But it definitely makes you think. What do you believe justice should be?